some people coming in as we speak. Welcome. Hi, Siobhan.
Or while people trickle in, I can just begin remarks, and then
Yeah, sure.
by the time that I'm done, my mouth's full of words. We should have everyone here. Yeah, so great. So some of you may know that I'm one of the programming coordinators at X-Space Cultural Center. The following land acknowledgement is an amalgamation of conversations and texts drawn together from conversations I've had with X-Space, with Hearth, also internally on a personal level. And though the three contexts are different, I think that there's something to be learned from these various perspectives, which constitutes how I'm going to be talking about our relationship to the land that we find ourselves on, if you're in Toronto. Speaking of which, though we're all in different places right now, we'd like to acknowledge the Indigenous land on which our space operates on. We wish for this land acknowledgement to function as an understanding of the land and our relationship to it. As individual arts practitioners, cultural workers, living and working within Takaranto, as well as the collective entity that constitutes Hearth. So the sacred land has been a site of human activity for 15,000 years, serving as the home of Indigenous people and nations long before the colonial project. These are the original territories of the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabeg Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations, and the Métis Nation. The territory exists in connection with the One Dish, One Spoon Wampum Belt. It's a peace treaty and mutual agreement established between the Iroquois Confederacy and the Confederacy of the Ojibwe and Allied Nations to care for the land and the precious resources around the Great Lakes. The dish representing the land itself and the spoon representing responsibility in sharing its resources, never taking more than you need and sharing with others. We must continue to uphold this treaty, both as Indigenous folks and non-Indigenous/settler folks, as it addresses the entirety of our relations and relationships. For us, this treaty informs our intention to support artists who exist in the margins through public programming and the sharing of additional resources for arts practitioners, a sharing of knowledge, hospitality, and opportunity. Our fellow peers gathered across the vibrant arts community that has since developed here. That being said, we stand in solidarity with Indigenous communities against the violent forces and effects of colonialism. We wish for this land acknowledgement to also function as a call to action. Dismantling systemic racism and white supremacy within institutions and systems we exist in, as well as continuing to fight for Indigenous sovereignty, rights, and stewardship of land, are just a few of the many forms in which support can take. We seek to use the resources available to us as an art space in order to work towards these goals within our projects and programming. And as we see land acknowledgements become rapidly co-opted by institutions, we recognize the inherent failure in the limits of the land acknowledgement itself. But despite its intrinsic failings, in still including one, we would like to honor the land acknowledgement as something that's alive and ever shifting. It's not just words in a Google Doc, but it's something that's unable to be completed. And it's an endless process of change as we commit to always be reflecting, responding, and learning about what it means to live and work on stolen land. And I think for me personally, in regards to my own specific context, I'm the son of immigrant parents who moved to Canada from the Philippines in 1989, 6 years before I was born in 1995. Cultivating new beginnings from the ground up in a new place means that my family, countless other immigrant families, and the Filipino diaspora specifically hold our new homes with a special kind of reverence. But despite this perceived ownership of land and the complexities of the immigrant experience and conversations about displacement, that relationship is still rooted in colonial ideals. We're still settlers on this land that is not and has never truly been ours. I think that this isn't talked about enough in immigrant communities, and I personally didn't realize this until much later in my life. And likewise, I don't think this was ever made apparent to my parents either. I've been trying to unweave these embodied misunderstandings in an effort to better understand my place on this land, who I am as a cultural worker, artist, and generally an alive human being. And we encourage you to think about your own unique relationship to the land as well. So founded in 2019 as an artist-run space, Hearth seeks to provide a site to present projects within a context that values collaboration, experimentation, and community. As a structural element of the makeup of a house and tool for providing warmth, light, and food, a hearth is meant to gather us towards itself and towards each other. We present a number of different types of programming, from both physical exhibitions to virtual exhibitions and special projects like Erotic Awakenings. There's always something going on at Hearth, both IRL and online. Just a small plug for some things we've got coming up. We're about to launch a new season of programming with the solo exhibition by Madeleine, who's a Toronto-based artist. We love Nat so much, and she's been working really hard on a new body of work, and we're excited to be able to share it publicly in the coming days. Right now, with everything going on, we're really not sure what that will look like, but any details and updates we have about the situation can be found on our website. So we invite you to check that out, alongside a whole backlog of past programming, fundraising multiples for sale, resources for artists, and 2 previous volumes of Erotic Awakenings. And as for tonight, we're joined here today by the contributors of our 3rd volume of Erotic Awakenings. A writing project Hearth began with icon superstar Fan Wu in the spring of last year. I'm going to officially hand it over to Ben and Fan, who's one of our co-directors, to tell you a little bit about the project and what is in store for tonight's festivities. So enough from me. Take it away, Ben.
All right, so thank you all for coming tonight. It's so wonderful to see us get, as together as we can under this current conditions. I think before Fan and I jump into a little discussion on Erotic Awakenings and what those are, I would just like it if our contributors and our readers tonight could give us a little name go around and introduce themselves to the audience, if they want,
Hi, I'm Maddie. My pronouns are she, her.
Hi, I'm Marisa. My pronouns are they, them.
Hi, I'm Susie. My pronouns are she and her. Glad you all are here.
Hi, Simon. My pronouns are he, him. Is my mic working a little bit better? I know I was having some issues in the. Okay, great. Thanks everyone for coming.
Sounds good, Simon.
Hi, I'm Darian. I use they, them, and he, him pronouns in English.
I think that just leaves you, Fan.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hi. Hey there.
My name is Fan. I use he, they pronouns. And this is David Hockney, my good friend behind me.
So yeah, Fan, I was just kind of curious, what is an erotic awakening?
Really glad you asked.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think there's a moment in sort of Toronto publication where Milkweed Zine was coming out and File Magazine was coming out. And I don't know if any of you guys know those publications, but there was a real moment when writing and eros, or sexuality, were converging with each other. And I wanted to do my own take on it because the erotic has always been so fundamental for me. And think about, the moments, the scenes, the little flickers in people's lives when they were transformed by an erotic experience, which expands into the field of sexuality, but can be things other than what we normally call sexuality.
Right. So this isn't necessarily like a interrogation of psychosexual development, is it?
No, it's definitely influenced, by people thinking about stages of sexual development, like Freud's oral, anal, and then genital phases. But I found that too limiting in terms of its like progressivist or linear notion of development. So what's really nice about this public archive, and thank you all to the third round contributors for submitting your stories, is that we have moments from all over a person's life. It can be from childhood, but it can also be from much later in life, from recent times, recognizing that the erotic can inspire us and rise in us across our lives.
Yeah, it definitely challenges the notion of like even being a late bloomer almost. It doesn't seem like, based off of the submissions that we've gotten so far, that doesn't seem like every single one of them happens early in childhood or even in childhood at all. And I think that it's interesting that the erotic awakening doesn't necessarily exist purely as something that happens early on in your life. Especially when, you know, the ideology of linearity like seems to haunt the individual so much. And it challenges that single form or that single understanding. And it also seems to challenge genre. So like what genre do you think the erotic awakening exists in as a form of writing? Or even if it does?
Yeah, I mean, I like that you said that it challenges the late bloomer sort of tag or a category, because I feel like what this archive really shows is that we've all bloomed lately. You know, it's a reversal of that.
What have you bloomed lately?
Yeah, what's been blooming lately? You know. You know, little swerves into interesting fetishes, perversions, you know, changes in one's preferences, changes in one's object choices. Like these are the things that are really exciting to me because they have this ineffable quality. Like how do our desires change? It's this mystical question for me. And in the form of the writing that you asked about so far, it really does feel like it's somewhere between the diary entry and a more aestheticized piece of writing, right? There's something, it collides these two genres, one of which is deeply private and one of which is knowing about its publicness, you know, knowing about the fact that it's going to be a public facing piece of writing. So that's it. I will always love that threshold between the private and the public.
And this kind of threshold idea or this kind of interstitial idea seems to be reflective of how it engages with the senses too. And like the senses that are engaged with in the pieces of writing. And I know that you've mentioned in the past the energy of Eros being the bundle of nerves. And I was wondering if you could just expand a little bit more on that as well. This kind of all-togetherness of the senses.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Because, yeah, I kind of wanted Erotic Awakenings to open that space for what happens in the places slightly outside of narrative, in the way the nervous system is engaged by erotic activity, and it can't be contained in something like a narrative, something like a story, although it can definitely feed back into narrativity. I think there's a way that sensation and the synesthesia of sensation that happens when we have an erotic moment, it challenges and balances narratives, which we can often fall into when we talk about sexuality. So I like that counterbalancing force of the erotic awakening.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much.
Should I start with a reading?
Yeah, definitely. I think that we could jump right in.
Let's do it. So this piece is called September in Letters, and it's by Alexandra Box. It was like being at the direct half point of a novel, vulgarity and binate optimism, not yet ready for the real fuel of the narrative. Looking down at my hands, I name each vein that is bound to betray me as I take something or some shape into my grip. Daydreaming about my grip around an enamel-slotted spoon, I trace it on the soil to mimic the triangulation of my interior, rushing from one point to the next. I remember all of the times I earnestly wished to disrobe in the wrong place. I remember all of the times I proudly announced my wishes to disrobe and was lying. I remember all the times I arrived at my great-grandmother's and great-great-uncle's door, only to encounter them proudly disrobed. I read a letter today. I read a letter that is full of below-ground thoughts, although it may not be read as such, as the words are fair and sweet. In the letter I describe how the water I watch is flattened by the breeze, and how I had a dream about the woman I write to the night before, taking place on a boat, and of course her mother was present. I refuse to analyze why my padded-in romance dreams always have the mother present in some subtle way. I also refuse to smell this rotting fish any longer, so I get up and leave this air, but lie about my whereabouts. One must take any opportunity to flatter the scene. What I leave out of the letter is an exercise in heart edit. The water-flattening breeze was romantic until it was not, and it began to serve the rotting flesh of that sunbathing fish. In my dream log, I wrote down dreamboat, and these two words will serve as my entertainment for the day. It felt both abridged enough to adhere to the happenings in the dream world, and androgynous enough to remedy my bruised gay complex. Now I sit to write again, this time among the lacerated blades of crabgrass, crisped and browned by the sun. I see the stream still, green, gray, even golden at certain hours of the afternoon. Today my flame for writing will be awfully worn berets, grandmother's leather belts, shoes being misnamed, male martyrdom, and scratch and sniff money. I can hear the cows across the water, speaking and stirring. Filling the lines of her letter with meaningless but romantic observations, taking her on the ride that this summer has been, a soul ride. I have been far and she has been near. I conclude with how discreetly captive she has kept me. Tied down, held down, never, but rather captivated by what she hides and what she reveals to this world. In this, I am captive, beyond the point where I may let myself out. So maybe I am kept, though I pass through many, using my own restraints. I have many strange wonderings while I write. I leave them out too, like how many types of pipes are in her house. Certainly all of them are out of sight, though she is in her basement renter class. Finally, Plain Rich has a harsher expiry in that city. It's true, I'll miss being granted the opportunity to emasculate, to wear garments that outdate my great-grandmother in bed, to be the keeper of his secrets, and to spew coded language at the oarsman. I became lengthened in heart, and it was my most prized local numbing agent. Although I stand knee-deep in the low-tide sludge of myself so suddenly now, I keep my margins both kept and free. So that's September in Letters by Alexandra Box. Oh, should we mention that we're all reading other people's pieces? I don't know
Yeah,
if...
yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay, great.
It's been scrambled.
In the spirit of like the anonymity of the project.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Who would like to read next?
There was an order. I think I'm next, but maybe if someone could confirm.
I can check. It was devised through a randomizer so that nobody would feel singled out.
Maybe too random.
So it's not really set in stone, but let me double check. Yeah, so next was Maddie. Yeah, true. I'll post the order in the chat. And Yue, who is one of the participants, wasn't able to join us today, so Philip will be reading the piece that Yue was assigned.
Okay. So the piece I'm reading is titled Gender Mutt and Empty Waiting Room. I slump a bit in my chair, glancing at my bag. It mimics my own posture. My eyes glaze over, melting together the white walls and clean laminate flooring. I am waiting, patiently, though I don't know what for. Bored and alone, I push my hand under my waistband, wriggling to reach myself in my boxers. I swirl my finger over my clit for a bit as time and space evaporate, leaving just me and my body. ¿Por qué no? No tengo nada mejor que hacer con el tiempo. I wriggle my pants to my lower thighs, leaving me in my boxers. I re-enter my boxers, pushing up against the waistband with one hand and parting my lips with the other so I can watch myself. I push back the tiny hood, holding my clit delicately between my nails and gently pull it. Surprised, it slides out, extending easily. I pull a little more until it is a few inches long, flushed and slender. It's not a dick, but it is phallic in shape. My surprise extension has no head or hole, and it is the size and shape of a baby carrot, a gradient of flesh tones. It pulses. I wonder if this thing has been here all along, but I never knew it. I flex my own appendage and watch its way over and over before pushing it upward and tucking it into my boxers. I admire the outline shape, a little bulge where it once was smooth. My fingertips brush over the bulge a few times, admiring the silhouette before burrowing my hand back under my clothing. Still in disbelief, I push and pull it in and out, testing its possibilities of existence again, letting the feeling of pleasure and surprise wash over my body. My hand encircles my new extension as I begin to stroke myself. My mind melts to a carnal place. Quiero cogerme y mi pieza nueva solite. My hips rock and raise to let my piece dive deeper into my hand, beginning to get clammy with sweat. The wetness grows between my thighs with every pelvic oscillation. I lean my head back against the seat, my waistband digging into the back of my hand. I get even wetter as I watch myself. I release the tension in my back muscles, relaxing into this unforeseen moment. I savor the friction as my mind grows hazy. My mind goes to penetration. I ask myself, is this the epitome of patriarchal power? Now that I have something to penetrate with, must I penetrate? The phallus that I have long felt dominated by, even avoidant of, well, it ends up I too have what I have despised. I don't want to penetrate with my new piece. The word penetration aches of dominance and imposition, like a thorn hooking into soft flesh. My piece was born out of pleasure and acceptance, a new extension in concept and shape altogether. Is it possible my appendage can be different? Hearing soft footsteps at the door, I look up to find you leaning at the door frame. I blush, embarrassed, and pull my hand away from myself, waistband snapping against my stomach. Laughing, you walk over and fill the space between my sprawled out legs. Leaning, you plant a kiss on my lips as your hand reaches down to cup my parts. Your wide eyes meet mine as you meet my new addition. Who's this? You run your hands over my boxers a few times to check if it's really there. I flex it, letting it nudge your palm and nod with a slight smile on my lips, which you return. You trace the shaft from outside my boxers a few times, warily before pulling my boxers down. Your smile breaks to a full smirk before I sense your mouth's warm wetness greet my piece. The sensation is overwhelming. My body hums, and I close my eyes. Your saliva drips down the base of my addition to mix with my own wetness, and I rock my pelvis to bury myself deeper in your mouth. Your hands hug my hip bones, and I run my hands through your hair as I get and you give my first blowjob. I really love that poem, I just want to say.
Yeah, so I suppose that I'm next. This piece is called Pressed Lavender. This is my body. a mural of soft, disconnected lines, dips, and a mouthful of sharpened glass. The body speaks in ways it only can. The first time I heard her voice was at the age of 5 in a darkened room. The second time I heard her voice was on a humid afternoon in 2003, listening to Crazy in Love. That time she told me to dance, to find an opening. I am 25, feeling estranged from this voice, muffled by patriarchy and the religiosity of my teens, fearing my own pleasure like the back of a father's hand, fearing the largeness God gave me, fearing God. I am 26, and it is the first time a man has kissed me in public. He kisses me like it is the most natural thing in the world, like fat Black girls are the default. And for a moment, I almost believe him. I am frozen in alarm and bliss as I start to recognize the rhythm of my pleasure. Frozen because this is sinful. Frozen because this feels holy. I am next to him, foreheads pressed together, breath mingling, desire hovering. His touch is a free roam of my being and all of my insecurities. Curious, this one. I am afraid of what he will find. He doesn't stop touching, and I don't want him to. My entire existence has been an attempt to make myself seem less. I was doing everyone a favor. To seem less means you don't have to explain yourself. I am contemplating the cost I will be summoned to pay. Here, not even disappointments are free. Love can feel humiliating in the most erotic sense. I am waiting for someone to be gentle with my heart, because gentleness teaches that more of her is needed in the world with one another. To describe this experience is like being so awake, not merely observing, orgasm as in surrender to the present, no longer withholding from your own self, but alive from the inside. I am standing at the corner of my street with him. He leans down to kiss me goodbye. Humans walking past, isolation heavy. There is tender need in this kiss. I remember what it is like to make space for him in my pussy. I am being witnessed. We've done 3 volumes of this, and I think this is one of my favorite pieces to ever come in, among our many amazing ones.
Hi folks, I think it's my turn, right? My cat. I also love that piece. I'm gonna be reading one that I believe is in the shape of a letter. Here we go. X. Have a great summer, he wrote me as he slipped away from dark recesses. Be mine, you sly fox. I feel the back of your painted nails trace across my shivering skin. I always knew you cared, but the lunch line says otherwise. Do you really think you can just take whatever you want? I hear you call to me as I escape the drone of class with my hall pass. Is that you behind the wrestling mats? I unraveled them like my memory unravels when I look at the yearbook from back then and realize that you were never there in the first place. But mopping the mats always brought you closer to me because they were clean. Because when they were clean, they held carefully our bodies. Who knew they could hit the ground so hard and still be safe? When you come to my rescue in the basement gym, I'm found 3/4 submitted by half Nelson, and I see you in the corner blink twice. The hairs on your forearms stand up like chicken skin, shimmering, and I sigh, wondering why I ever came down here in the first place. The bus home, the walk home would be better. But the feeling of being thrown around someone's hip is as erotic as it is exhausting. Like riding the fireball, but having your seatbelt come undone on the way down, only you had to run 10 kilometers to get there. With bravado, the wrestlers and I carry one another up through the halls. A spectacular display of machoist workouts. But also, when else were you allowed to let another boy your size carry you like a baby up 3 flights of stairs? The closest I got to the experience of being in another body like mine, daydreams, something like being John Malkovich. Except instead of piloting a celebrity from a command center behind the eyes, slipping just beneath the skin of this teenager and comparing all the little differences between us. The trade-off was that you had to carry them too. And there you are again, watching me in Smoker's Corner, pushing open the doors to let in the winter air. Those stairs, so much fresher. The ones down to the gym clanged and rattled with the chatter of the football team. Is it here that I will become what I am? High school's ultimate lie that only the good don't believe, that it's a place you become who you are. The mats are soft, yet dense. They press down for milliseconds and pop back up. You can punch it and it won't hurt, but it also won't remember you like the hole in the drywall would. Their memory is invisible. Leave it on the mat, and it's probably still there, especially in the form of ringworm, hence the bleach in the mop water, joined with other smells in that room, an amazingly unique stink. But they have character, like the old hardwood floors of warehouse boxing clubs. The first time I felt the aura of tradition in a gym. For all its violence, boxing is a romantic sport. Feet dance and jabs say hello. Coaches cry when they talk about their champions. Puking is common. Fighting sports share so much. Who hasn't done jumping jacks with a garbage bag on in the sauna? Don't cut weight and you'll spend the whole weekend getting thrown around by 12th graders that usually weigh 25 pounds more than you. There he is, such and such, he's the best in Saskatchewan, placed 3rd in Canada last year. He rips and slides circles around his opponent, smiling, taunting. He grapples him, prostrates, lifting his legs up by the ankles and using the leverage to tilt his shoulders past 90 degrees in each direction. Each time they cross the plane, that's a point. I'd never seen anyone with so much control over another body. 1 minute, whistle blown, match over, lunchtime. I stare out the window and see you drive by in a 2-door Honda Civic. Is that us in the future getting high listening to Nos? Buy me a Slurpee and roll around in the grass so our mothers don't smell the weed. That'll work. I see you out there and I remember that I'm trapped. 5 years earlier, we're having a sleepover and you say to me, you know that feeling you get when you wake up on the first day of summer? That's the feeling I have every day when I wake up knowing that I'm not white. Your intoxicating pride, the strange wisdom of a 10-year-old grappling with race. We're unique here, a special bond. How a mat can unlock a train of memories. We open the commercial vault to our basement studio and are greeted halfway down the stairs by a thick, shameless smell of stale alcohol, like a bottle recycling depot. Each step on the chipboard floors below causes the boards to sag noticeably at the seams, soften as if they've been left out overnight in the rain. The gray paint on top is covered in a thin layer of dirt, caked by sticky spilt beer and G&Ts. We replace the cheap colored glass bulbs with bright, cold, white LED ones, which reveal in uncomfortable detail the mess from last night. It's bad, but it's not that bad. I'm literally hungover, I say jokingly. The floors are absolutely filthy. We can't have an exhibition like this. I'll get them up. back and forth. Have you done this before? I used to as a kid, and again at the restaurants. A dance floor last night after a deep clean and an Instagram post turns into a gallery floor tomorrow. But every time I mop, I'm transported to the mats, where I swooped the heavy mop head in broad, elegant, wax on, wax off like strokes. Except for down here, we've replaced the tap water bleach mixture with a more palatable, eco-friendly alternative. Erasing the foot traffic from last night tugs at my heart a little bit. How many people came through? Must have been like 150. Feels good, but I really need some water. Should we tell Mark about the sink? Oh, I don't know. I think you can replace it pretty easily. They sell them at the Restore. All right, I'll see if Piper can fix the bathroom lights. I wonder what happened to that guy. Greta says she saw someone run out with their hood up. I wonder if he was trying to reach the bulb and took the whole thing down. An inconvenience, to be sure, but a memorable story for the first one. And that's how we learned to replace the sink. Now the barbershop is using it as a storage space or something. What a shame. I wonder if the broken one is still down there. I can't bring myself to throw it away when we left. And that's it. It's a beautiful one.
Wow, that was amazing. I'm up next, and the writing I am reading is called There Was a Girl on My Soccer Team. There was a girl on my soccer team who was tall and thin with mousy brown hair. I would have to keep myself from staring. She was painfully beautiful. My mother thought she looked just like her brother. I used to watch the Victoria's Secret fashion show every year, and I knew all the models by name. I thought it was their long legs, or their taut abs, or perfectly curled hair, or puckered lips that drove the infatuation. I didn't develop crushes on my close friends, which probably would have helped with the realization. Once at my grandparents' house, I was surrounded by my cousins in the basement. I was singing I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry, and my cousin remarked something along the lines of, when you sing something, that's how you really feel. I remember feeling defensive and exposed. I know now that she wasn't insinuating anything. She was just busting my balls. When I was 12 or 13, my mom asked me if I liked girls. I objected. She asked because I never told her about any of my crushes. She told me that she could remember the name of every boy she had ever had a crush on since kindergarten. I had crushes on boys, I just didn't tell her about them. I used to say that I would make out with a girl, but I wouldn't sleep with one. I remember one of my friends saying that if anyone in our friend group were to be a lesbian, it would be me. It bothered me. I went to Catholic school. I was already not Italian, and I didn't want there to be something else that made me different. I didn't have a boyfriend in high school. It didn't seem like many boys liked me in that way, but I didn't care. One of my friends who was gay used to call me Butch and tried to convince me I was a lesbian. There was this beautiful blonde girl who was tall and thin. I was jealous of her, and I found my eyes wandering back to her. I was nervous to talk to her, so when she plopped down right in front of me in the grass, I was so nervous to talk to her when she plopped down right in front of me in the grass. I still follow her on Instagram. I went to a party when I was 17, and I think I made out with this really pretty girl who was friends with the host, but I blacked out, so the story was never corroborated. In my senior year book, one of my friends wrote, "You're a lesbian, but that's okay."
Great reading, Marisa. My name is Susie. I go by Susanna, and I'm going to be reading 2 poems by Yi-Wei Hu. The first poem is titled The Colleague, Up Close. His enthusiastic ablutions, a snuffle, 2 short snorts, trail of gargles and spits take me back to Amman during Ramadan, where I learned that piety could be sexy. The bathtub is small. He tells me, "You're surprisingly tall up close." Soap suds in his body hair like spume on seaweed. I taste grit and salt. He immerses me. I hold my breath. Underwater, I hear his nostalgia from the coast. Adriatic? Tofino? The confusion of childhood split by migration, the home country cut in 7. His laughter ripples. I wanted to be a soldier, then a philosopher. Now I mend bodies, but not souls. He pulls my head out of water, fleeting holiness fill my chest hollow. The virus will not kill either of us. We still have much future to waste. I love that poem. Okay. Second poem by Yi-Wei Hu is called Elegy for the Queen of Hearts. Alas, the certainty of violence and sad endings seeded from Edenic promise. Summer swims and water flights, a shallow lake's bound to be murky. Seasonable heat, fish float on their bellies, spend long enough in the sun and breeze, all trace of moisture vanishes. When what shouldn't ever happen is happening, velvet voices play from a tape recorder. Antiquated rustle, nude silk of her nightgown, bare knees groan. On carpet soft as moss, is it still an act of killing? You haven't seen the inside of her arm. Silver birches, long and thin. In autumn, canopy and forest floor become synonymous. Ecology, a day-long russet sunset. It becomes pointless to discuss up and down, right or wrong. You can never tell by looking. Oh.
So good. I'm nervous. All the writing has been so beautiful today. I am last, and I'm reading Springtime Sublimates in a Stranger's Eyes by Darian. Streets blooming in mid-March, too early for me, for I've long hardened off, am fresh, new shifting meat across boulevards, through alleys, along canals, tactless when a stranger's eyes catch and hold longer than my habitude of 0. Fight or fuck, but either way I'm screwed, or not. I sigh as he rounds the corner and falls off the edge of the pollen-stained world. A connection missed, intersubjectivity deferred. I feel warm here, placed here, sensorial provocations, feigning acclimation to new surroundings. Betrayed by sneezes, uncovered allergies, still, my wintered brown skin, almost sick, resonates with the innate glow of lutetians, though minuscule in comparison, here at sunset or sunrise, for which I am its naive witness, trekking past steel-shuttered vitrines, catching myself only in cobbled puddles, homing my route from ecstasy places in parks and bedrooms, on dance floors and balconies. For I have certainly never enjoyed such freedom in the beatific and frightening. Yesterday, waiting at Gaité, where I encountered a sign in the shape of a man who urged my consideration of exactly 5 new sensations: the bite of tooth on tongue, lips kissing forgotten freshly corners, palpitations doting creation, silent diction, fingers pleading yes, reveling in lovers, friends. Arrived at abysses, today's abyss, climbing spiral-stepped cascades, tired exhilaration in my mouth. I suck it like a gumdrop, delay gratification, sheath it under my tongue, melting toward the expectant light. Faint but real, with every lunge feeding its flame, my bones are its driftwood, kindling there. I come to, out and under the city, its stone heart golden. I lose my own in the turnstile whirl and hear it patter down the concrete cascade, still beating, and knowingly march on. Lost myself in those streets, entered 4 characters to retreat the court of my longing, feline and her dame waiting alert, centuries to my novel desire. I remember that night. He sang me battle hymns of separatists shooting outside his windows. We cheered for them because we knew separation was an intelligent response, subliminal, to the distances we tried to breach in those sunless hours between bodies, human, in misty streets and rapturous balls, who may never reconcile the trueness of its other. That's great. Really nice.
Whew, thank you all so much. I can't even describe where I'm feeling sensations, but let it be known that it's overwhelming. What we're going to do now is, in the energy of what's been accumulated into this Zoom space from all those readings tonight, Ben is going to add a link to the chat, and we're going to sort of put in our own collaborative effort at creating a bundle of nerves, a sort of bundled erotic awakening that comes from our collective unconscious. So, Ben, if you want to throw that in the chat, that would be amazing. And then what we're going to do is, so there's a disclaimer. Because we're inviting all of you to think about erotic awakenings or erotic experience, feel free to leave or to get off the camera if you need to, or get in touch with one of us if you feel something intense or overpowering. We know that, the erotic is often a place of danger and risk as well. So just a disclaimer that your participation is completely optional. So if you do click this document, we've divided your awakening into these 6 moments, these 6 pieces, and take a moment to sort of reflect on an intense erotic moment, or one that was mild but still life-changing, and sort of reflect on the sensual contents that we've laid out here. The 5 senses, smell, hearing, touch, taste, and sight, but also the 6th sense of the kinesthetic and the spiritual. And then so split off your erotic moment into objects or longer phrases according to how these senses appeared in your erotic scene. But the fun part is we're going to stagger our descriptions of these 6 senses along different rows. So you're not going to be writing in one horizontal row, but you're going to be scattering them across different rows. So we're going to get a sort of mix and matched portrait of these different erotic moments. So I'll just repost these instructions here. Are there any questions about that? And then what we're going to do is we're going to come back together and do a collective reading of what we come up with. And all right, why don't we take 10? And feel free to write as much as you need. Also take a pee break as you need. So see you all back here in 10, and we'll do a reading. we'll be coming back in about 2 minutes. If you've still got writing juice left in you, we can try to finish off the lines that have incomplete cells. Oh my god, we have like almost exactly enough people for everyone to take a line. But like no pressure. You don't have to read. But I'm just noting the numbers here. So for our reading, it'd be amazing if we'll read along the horizontal and see what came out of our mashup. But if you can say the I hear, I see before each piece of that poem. So I'll just go first. And you can read whatever lines stick out to you as being impactful. And if two people read at the same time, beautiful. Let's go with that too. I hear self-doubt. I see pure ecstasy. I touch the hair that sprouts as though from the stone of his body. I smell the mix of many bodies around me. I taste mouthwash and gravy. Oh yeah, why don't we unmute so we can all laugh together? That'd be fun. Anyone who wants to. No more of this sexless silence. Okay. I move toward the difficulty of traveling for something not yet speakable as love.
I hear gentle laughter. I see computer screen. I touch your jar of coconut oil lube. I smell the summer heat. I taste the fabric. I taste the fabric of my own button-up collar. I move toward pleasure.
I'll go. I hear blood pounding in my ears. I see him on the computer screen. I touch cold tile. I smell microwave meal. I taste sweetened fish. I move toward, what are you thinking?
I hear Eddie's bongo. I see infinite hollow. I touch the back of it. I smell fear. I taste your drink. And I move towards pleasure, risks, past and futures now, myself.
I hear imagined rubber nipple. I see a dildo, but one that's like almost too accurate. I touch the pause button. I smell I would kill for a stick of butter. I taste iron, rust, dry winter. Oh, Greg. What is this word? Epistaxis? I move towards acceptance of self, of the present, of a timeline not yet here.
Hmm.
I hear the subtle hum of machinery. I see your rounded shoulders between my legs. I touch my soaked clothing. I smell Lysol and stagnant air. I taste my own tongue. I move toward hazy release.
I hear, baby, baby, I want to be with you. I see an openness in eyes I recognize from other times, other people, and lets guilt seep in just in seeing someone undone and wanting. I touch you in your maroon. I smell faint celery. I taste your salty sweat, and I move toward the Knight of Swords.
Hmm.
I hear airy breaths that intensify with your proximity. I see Andrew Garfield in a Leica suit. I touch your hard nipples. I smell drying white paint. I taste your overworked hands, and I move towards absolutely nothing.
I hear a movie score. I see a way nicer apartment than I'm used to. I touch the keys of my laptop. I smell dried spit, sour. I taste the dildo I'm sucking. I move toward feeling normal.
You're sucking on a dildo and typing on a laptop. I don't know how.
Don't doubt me.
Multitasking.
Yeah, no, good stuff.
I hear your German accent. I see the opportunity of a public bathroom sink. I touch the blankets, my bed, my pillow. My hands are clenched. I smell ancient cologne. I taste dryness in my mouth. I move toward wits.
I hear the rabbit named Friend. I see a bottle thrown out the window. I touch your hungry throat. I smell espresso, freshly cut wood. I taste lip of the void and move toward sleep.
I hear a high-pitched squeal. I see the hesitant white Saskatchewan sun. I touch long, soft hair, my arms stretched to run through. I smell what I've always wanted. I taste the ripe peach. I move toward, what is this? Self-respect.
I hear your roommate come home. I see the seat of the passenger in front of me. I touch our waist. I smell it must be water. I taste overlapping highlighted Google Sheet cells. And I move forward to closure.
I hear god awful dirty talk. I see the blue curtains you sewed yourself. And I touch what I do not have.
You guys are echoing a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was part of the performance of that one.
And mine.
Love it. Any last takers?
I hear a drunken Irishman. I see chicken skin shimmering. I touch the giraffe bumps behind your ears. And I smell the freshest air no city could hold on to. I taste hotness and I move towards dissolution.
Any last takers? Going once, going twice. Let's give a round of applause for anonymous Cuddle Puddle. Sorry, Ben, I know you renamed it. I couldn't resist calling it that once. I just really want to thank all of you for being here. I really want to thank Hearth for consistently being amazing to work with, and for Ben especially for helping me conceptualize this collective writing. And to all the Volume 3 contributors and all the contributors of previous volumes who are here today. I want to do this project forever. Insofar as the human is always composed of the erotic, we shall always awaken to it. So thank you all so much for being here. I don't know if you guys want to talk about how people can submit.
You can, if anyone wants to submit to this, it's ongoing. We post new ones kind of whenever we collect enough of them to merit it, kind of. And it's totally open for submission, so you can email us. Our email's on our website, and I'll type it in the chat.
Oh, I just put it
in
there.
And our email's there too.
Nice.
Or just DM us on Instagram if you follow us there to like get the info. We'll send you like a little description of all the things that we ask for from all the participants, but it's pretty simple. And we're open to any form, pretty much anything.
And there's
hopefully in the future, we'd love to put out a publication with all of these stories collected. So fingers crossed that the future of this project we continue to get more amazing submissions.
Yeah.
And there's links to the intro to this whole project and also round 3 in particular in the chat if you want to revisit those pieces.
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces in this series that I just love. Like I feel like consistently, because I don't know, the theme is so good too, right? Like who wouldn't want to read these? And there's always like, really interesting snippets, and it's such a intimate thing to learn about that it's just kind of endlessly fascinating, I find. Anyway, thanks, Fan, for facilitating it.
Yeah, thank
all
you.
that today.
Thank you all, and I hope your nights are as erotically charged as you want them to be.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for coming.
Thank
and
you.
thanks for all the readers.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.